we were frequently approached by Saudis eager to talk to Americans for the first time face to face. And one of the first things they would say with excitement was, "Did you know Moses was here? Let me show you where he and his people were."
Imagine taking a giant X-ray machine and pointing it at a mountain that is strictly off limits to the public. That is exactly what a secret group of investors just did at a place called Jabal al Lawz.
This is the type of fence that's around that area. This is a view showing some standing stones and a lot of man-made rock formations.
Everyone is obsessed with the old stories, but nobody expected this to happen. The radar did not just find empty space. It found structures with right angles and materials that should not exist deep underground. Basically, we have been walking over the greatest mystery in history without even realizing it. Yeah, about that. The data does not lie, and it is crazier than any movie you have seen. Scanned peak secrets. The most shocking fact is that for decades, a growing number of archaeologists, explorers, and theologians have been saying that everyone is looking in the wrong place. The thing nobody tells you is that the biblical description of Mount Sinai just does not fit the Egyptian location. The Bible describes a mountain that was altogether on smoke because the Lord descended upon it in fire. It speaks of a massive encampment at its base and a location in the land of Midian. The problem is that Jabal Musa shows no signs of this large-scale volcanic or thermal activity. And to put it mildly, its location does not quite line up with ancient maps of Midian. That land was in what is now modern-day Saudi Arabia. This is where the story takes a wild turn. Across the Gulf of Aqaba, deep within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, lies a mountain that fits the description perfectly. That mountain is Jabal al Lawz. This mountain is different. Its highest peak is a dark, almost black granite. It stands in stark contrast to the light-colored rock of the lower sections. It looks scorched as if it was subjected to an unimaginable heat, and you can see this everywhere at the summit. For years, the Saudi government heavily restricted access to this area. They fenced it off and declared it an archaeological site. This only fueled the intense speculation. Why hide it if there is nothing there? Many people are crazy about the story of Ron Wyatt. He was an amateur archaeologist who in the 1980s claimed to have secretly visited the site. He returned with incredible stories and photographs of a massive split rock that looked like it had gushed water. He found an altar-like formation with carvings of bulls and other markers that seemed to align perfectly with the Exodus story. Of course, mainstream archaeology dismissed him. They called his findings amateur and his conclusions baseless. But here is the catch. The evidence was tantalizing. What many overlooked was that the sheer volume of circumstantial evidence was becoming too much to ignore. This was not just one clue. It was a dozen, all pointing to this one forbidden place. The core of the mystery became clear. Could the most important mountain in religious history be hidden in plain sight, guarded by a foreign government? The Doubting Thomas Research Foundation, among others, picked up where Wyatt left off. They compiled more and more evidence. The pressure was building. With modern technology, the question was no longer if we could find out the truth, but how. Satellite imagery could only show so much. What was needed was a way to look inside the mountain. We needed to peer beneath the scorched rock and sand. That is when a secret project funded by a group of wealthy private investors began. They were fascinated by the mystery. The plan was audacious. They decided to build a drone with next-generation ground-penetrating radar. They would fly it into Saudi airspace and scan the mountain to finally settle the debate once and for all. This was a mission that, if discovered, could cause an international incident. But for the team behind it, the truth was worth the risk. Basically, they were going to use science to prove a miracle. But the technology they were about to unleash was beyond anything the public had ever seen. One massive secret was waiting for the radar to pass over the dark peak. Desert relics exposed. Before a single piece of high-tech equipment ever flew over the Arabian desert, the case for Jabal al Lawz was already incredibly compelling. The evidence on the ground, documented by the few brave enough to venture there, reads like a checklist taken directly from the pages of the Bible. The most obvious and visually stunning clue is the blackened peak. You see, it is not a subtle discoloration. The top third of the mountain is made of a dark granitic rock that looks like it has been burned in a colossal furnace. Geologists have tried to explain it as a natural formation. But what many overlooked is how this phenomenon is isolated to this specific peak and how perfectly it matches the biblical account of God descending in fire. It is a jaw-dropping sight. Then there is the split rock. About a mile from the mountain is a truly bizarre geological feature. A massive boulder standing about 60 feet tall is split clean down the middle. It has a gap wide enough for a person to walk through. At its base, there are clear signs of massive water erosion, as if a river once burst forth from the rock itself. This perfectly mirrors the story of Moses striking the rock at Horeb to provide water for the Israelites. The thing nobody tells you is that this is in the middle of an arid desert. There are no rivers or other water sources nearby that could have caused this kind of erosion over time. It is an anomaly that defies conventional explanation. Many people are crazy about the altar and the rock carvings. At the foot of the mountain lies a large pile of rocks that appears to be man-made. It looks like an altar. Surrounding it are numerous ancient rock carvings. While carvings are common in Arabia, these are unique. They depict archers, figures, and most importantly, cattle and bulls. This is significant because the Bible describes the Israelites building a golden calf to worship at the base of Mount Sinai. These carvings, showing a reverence for bovine figures, are found right at the spot where millions would have camped. To put it mildly, it is a shocking coincidence. Adding to this, explorers found what appear to be the remains of 12 stone pillars. This matches the 12 pillars Moses was said to have erected to represent the 12 tribes of Israel. And you can see this everywhere around the base of the mountain. There is a massive flat area perfect for a huge encampment. We are talking about an area that could easily hold millions of people along with their livestock, just as the Bible describes. This is a crucial detail that many other proposed sites for Mount Sinai lack. Jabal Musa in Egypt, for instance, simply does not have the space. The most shocking fact is that all of this evidence exists in one single location. We have the scorched peak, the split rock, the altar, and the encampment area. This is not a theory built on one piece of evidence. It is a comprehensive collection of physical markers that align with the ancient text in a way that no other site on Earth does. For the secret team planning the drone mission, this was not a wild goose chase. They were not just hoping to find something. They were going to confirm what they believed was already there, hidden just beneath the surface. Yeah, about that. The team knew they were looking at something that could change history books forever. They were ready to move past the surface and see what was deep inside the earth. But seeing inside the mountain would reveal something far stranger than carvings or altars. Deep inside the granite, the radar began to draw a shape that should not exist. Secrets beneath stone. This was no ordinary drone. The team, operating from a discreet location outside Saudi Arabia, called their creation the Eagle. It was a custom-built fixed-wing aircraft with a flight time of over 10 hours and a ceiling of 30,000 feet. This allowed it to fly high above commercial airspace, making it virtually invisible to conventional radar. But its real secret was the payload it carried. It was a brand new form of ground-penetrating radar. You see, standard radar can only penetrate a few dozen feet into the ground. It is used in construction and archaeology to find pipes or buried ruins. The Eagle's radar was different. It used a combination of ultra-low frequency radio waves and a quantum resonance imager. This technology is so advanced it is considered experimental even by the military. The result was, to put it mildly, like having an emery for the Earth. It could scan through more than 1,000 feet of solid rock. This was a power increase of not just 10 or 20 times, but over 100 times what was commercially available. The thing nobody tells you is that this kind of tech has the power to make nearly any secret buried underground visible. For the team, this meant they could map the entire interior of Jabal al Lawz. They could see caves, voids, water sources, and even different densities of rock, all from thousands of feet in the air. What many overlooked was the immense risk of this flight. A mission like this required perfect weather and a flawless flight path to avoid Saudi military patrols. The technology had to work without a single hitch. The launch was very tense. On a moonless night, the Eagle took off. It was a silent shadow against the stars. It crossed the border undetected, using sophisticated electronic countermeasures to mask its presence. For hours, it flew a precise grid pattern over Jabal al Lawz and the surrounding area. Its powerful radar pulsed downward, sending back terabytes of raw data. The team watched their screens with their hearts pounding. The first passes were over the plains at the base of the mountain. They confirmed the geology was perfect for a massive encampment. Then it scanned the area around the split rock. It revealed a network of underground fissures leading directly to its base. This suggested a massive high-pressure water source had indeed erupted from that exact spot in the distant past. But the main event was the mountain itself. As the Eagle began its slow scan of the scorched peak, the initial returns started painting a picture that was anything but natural. The radar was detecting strange anomalies deep within the core of the mountain. These were not just natural caves or geological formations. The data showed clear geometric shapes, straight lines, right angles, and unnaturally smooth surfaces buried hundreds of feet down. The density readings were all over the place. Some spots were strangely hollow, while others contained materials far denser than the surrounding granite. Many people are crazy about the idea of hidden chambers, but this was beyond that. It was as if something was constructed inside the mountain itself. The team stared in disbelief. The X-ray from the sky was working, and it was showing them something impossible. The final layer of the mountain was about to be peeled away on the screen. Impossible discovery inside. When the terabytes of data from the Eagle's flight were fully processed, the team rendered a complete three-dimensional model of Jabal al Lawz. It was a technological marvel. It allowed them to digitally slice through the mountain layer by layer. What it revealed silenced the entire room. Buried approximately 300 feet below the blackened summit was a large cavernous opening. This was not a natural cave. It was shaped like a perfect dome, roughly 50 feet in diameter. The thing nobody tells you is that nature rarely creates such perfect symmetry. But that was not the most shocking part. Inside this dome, the radar detected something else. It was a large rectangular object. The density readings were off the charts. They were consistent with large amounts of gold and acacia wood. Its dimensions were unmistakable. It matched to within an inch the biblical description of the Ark of the Covenant. The model even showed two distinct shapes on top, consistent with the cherubim said to adorn the lid of the Ark. To put it mildly, the team was looking at a digital ghost of the most sought-after artifact in human history. It was sitting in a hidden chamber inside the one mountain that matched the biblical narrative perfectly. The drone scan had not only supported the Jabal al Lawz theory, it had uncovered the ultimate proof. But there was more. The radar had also detected a network of what looked like tunnels leading away from the chamber, though many had collapsed. More astonishingly, the scorched rocks on the summit itself showed an insane level of isotopic radiation. This radiation was only found in specific rare earth elements. The energy signature was not consistent with a volcano or a lightning strike. What many overlooked was that the specific decay pattern was more like a massive directed energy event that happened thousands of years ago. The fire that had descended on the mountain was real. It had permanently altered the rock on a molecular level. This was physical evidence of an event so powerful it had left a radioactive scar for millennia. The scan acted as the final impartial judge. It delivered a verdict that swept centuries of tradition aside with cold electronic precision. Is the world truly ready to face the fact that history has been wrong for centuries? Tell us what you think below. Like and subscribe to keep the truth alive.